हरिः ओम् नारायणं परिपूर्णगुणार्णवाय विश्वोदयस्थितिलयो नियतिप्रदाय ज्ञानप्रदाय विबुधासुखदुःखसत्कारणाय वितताय नमो नमस्ते। कृष्णाय यादवेन्द्राय ज्ञानमुद्राय योगिने नाथाय रुक्मिणीशाय नमो वेदान्तवेदिने। प्रथमो हनुमन्नाम द्वितीयो भीम एव च पूर्णप्रज्ञतृतीयस्तु भगवत्कार्यसाधकः। अर्थिकल्पितकल्पोऽयं प्रत्यर्थगजकेसरी व्यासतीर्थगुरुर्भूयात् अस्मात्ष्टार्थसिद्धये। पूज्याय राघवेन्द्राय सत्यधर्मरताय च भजताम कल्पवृक्षाय नमताम कामधेनवे। पृथ्वीमण्डलमध्यस्था पूर्णबोधमतानुगाः वैष्णवा विष्णुहृदयास्तान् नमस्ये गुरुन् मम। ओम श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः। हरिः ओम हरिः ओम हरिः ओम। In the last video, we talked about the difference between the sannyas and the karma yoga, and what Lord said is that sannyas does not mean karma sannyas, and the yoga and the sannyasa are the way Arjun has interpreted is different from what it actually means. Sannyas means essentially, it does not mean renunciation of action and pursuit of only Sankhya, only Jnana Yoga, but it means the renunciation of the fruit of the actions. So, karmani sannyasa, renunciation of fruit of actions, and also eschew of all of the desires. So that is what the sannyasa, karma sannyasa means. Not to do act with some kind of a motive. And yoga, yoga, karma yoga essentially means doing the duty with Ishwar Paridhana. Means doing the duty with the knowledge that we are not the doer. Lord Hari is the doer, Lord Krishna is the doer, and that our work, the work that we do is not for the selfish motive, but it is nishkam karma. And when we are able to combine both these two things together. In the last video, we only talked about what is sannyas means and what is karma yoga means. But here today, I wanted to sort of emphasize that that both can reside in the same person. Doing the work with the dispassion, and also at the same time doing the karma with as a worship to the Lord. So that is the kind of the mental state that one has to get into. So uh, the dvanda, or the person is not perturbed by the labh hani, some gain or some obstruction to something that the person is able to gain, and he's not um, uh, disturbed by the unpleasant results if you're doing some activity which results in something unpleasant. Being able to uh, have that equanimity in the mind is going to come from the sannyasa, and the focus on the work will come trying to do the work with good diligent effort would come from the yoga sannyasa. So I just wanted to before we jumped into discussion on the dhyana, I just wanted to kind of just enumerate that. So karma yogi is doing the Bhagavad Arpana, the work with the devotion to Lord. He is Sat Charitravan, Jitendriya, and the person sees the Lord in all of the jivas, and without the blessings of the Lord, he will not be able to do any of the work. So that is the kind of mental framework for the karma yogi. um, and both has to come together in this in the sadhak, or in the person who is pursuing the yoga. So he's able to obtain the beatitude. So there are some examples which are given in Skanda 5th of Bhagavatam, which says, in absence of renunciation, person is denied of directly knowing the truth, denied the ability to directly know the truth in absence of renunciation. So renunciation sannyas is also equally important along with our actions. uh, Skanda 11 also talks about the person who is doing the ritualistic act. uh, he cannot obtain the vision of the Lord without the sannyasa. So Lord says, yat sankhye prapyate sthanam tadyogyarapi gamyate ekam sankyam cha yogam cha yah pashyati sa pashyati. So this is what he means by uh, being, both Sankhya and Yoga being the same. So now we will turn our attention to the Dhyana Yoga, and I just want to kind of emphasize the first, in this video at least, I will try to emphasize the uh, the manasik sthiti, the physical act in the dhyana, what needs to be done, uh, what would be the mental makeup during the dhyana, what is the result of doing the dhyana, and what are the necessary preconditions for a sadhak to do the dhyana. So this is given in chapter 6 of Bhagavad Gita. So what it says, I'll start with the Swarup, what is the physical um, characteristic of a person who wants to do physical, not physical characteristic, but physical uh, form of doing the dhyana. So what it says is madhya dehe sharir, or so all of your your merudand, your middle body, your head, and everything should be in a straight line, uh, including your throat, uh, without even moving your hand, and withdrawing your vision from the various different directions, and focusing your sight on the tip of your nose. That's how you start the dhyana. So that is the physical way of starting the dhyana, act of dhyana. Then it talks about the mental framework of what the dhyana should look like. So the mind should not, it should settle down. It should not be engaged in the object of senses. It should not be disturbed by the sense organs, driving your attention towards the object of senses. So विषयों से निवृत्त मन होना चाहिए. Now some people believe that what should be the object of meditation. So Lord clearly specifies in Bhagavad Gita that the object of the dhyana is himself. So the mind has to be focused on the Lord, and you have to do the meditative. In the meditation, you think about Nam, Roop, and Guna Chintan. So the attributes of the Lord, His name, and His characteristics, uh, His Rupa, and His attributes. Those are the things that you focus on. Bhagwan He is the most supreme. That one has to remember, and one has to focus his attention on Bhagwan. The phal that one gets is by doing this, you get the Sampragyat Samadhi. That Sampragyat Samadhi is the first stage. That there are multiple stages like asan, then your dharana, pratyahar, and then you get the Sampragyat Samadhi. So first you have to withdraw your senses, and that also requires you to long practice before you are able to withdraw your senses from the external sounds or sights or even the sanskar that are there in the mana. So this sampragyat samadhi is a state in which the jiva is always connected with the Lord. He is always thinking about the Lord. Um, uh, that is the state of the sampragyat samadhi. Then the necessary preconditions for obtaining the doing the dhyana is one should not be eating too much, uh, or just give up food, fasting all the time. Somebody who's doing too much sleep is not fit for it, yeah, or somebody who's always sleeping, um, um, that person is not fit, or somebody who's not sleeping at all, they are not fit. So you have to maintain equanimity and balance in your life. That is the arhata, and you should inculcate some of the um, qualities which are uh, essentially um, do not disturb your senses. In in chapter 12 of Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavan says, "Adveshta sarvabhutanam maitri karuna evacha nirmamo nirahankaro samadukha sukhachami santushta satatam yogi yat atma dhrada nischay maya arpit mano buddhiryo mad bhakta sacha me priya." So those qualities which are mentioned there in the last 8 shloka in chapter 12 is something that one has to inculcate to become firm in their mind, and to ensure that the mind is not disturbed and it is prepared for doing this kind of a dhyan. So just like the flame, uh, the the person who has attained the sampragyat samadhi, uh, his his mana is always engaged in the meditative state for when he's and he's thinking about Lord all the time. So just like the flame which is not flickering. Then the subsequent stages, asampragyat is called asampragyat samadhi. In this state, even with the disturbances, external disturbances, um, the person is not, his samadhi is not disturbed. Uh, all of the external um, the sense organs are not able to create any kind of a disturbance in in this state, and his mind is firmly established in the form of the Lord. So, and he experience beatitude and happiness. He contentment is what this person who is in some pragyat samadhi starts to feel. Um, he, he gets the stability in this state, and he experiences a lot of happiness just thinking about the various different attributes of Lord, and his gratitude. He's filled with gratitude, he's filled with a lot of emotions for the Lord, and he's experiencing heightened bliss at that point of time. uh, then the next stage is the person gets the darshan of the it's also created, it's a the imaginary form of the Lord, he that gets firmly established in his mind. That is not the real Lord, but it is the image of the Lord that the person is thinking about, that becomes clear in his mind. At this stage, even with a lot of um, um, difficulties in his life, that person would not get disturbed. The person would become quietened in his mind, and things will not disturb him. Uh, whatever in this state also, the all the sorrows and challenges in the past that he has experienced, and whatever he's experienced in the current uh, time, both of them will not be able to affect him. And in the going forward, any difficulty, challenges would not create any dukkha or any sorrow for him also. The desire to satiate any of the senses is completely gone in this is after the person attains this asampragyat samadhi. uh, Without, except for the Lord, the person does not think of anything else. And because he's always contemplating on the Lord, the person gets a vriddhi, that increases in his sattva guna. So that is the phal that he gets, the fruits that he gets is the samdarshitva. He is able to see the Lord in all of the jivas. Um, because of the prarabdha, or the past actions, past karma that he has done, or the things that whatever papa and punya that have accrued because of his past karmas, they because they will not have any effect on him. um, the person now, after attaining this state of equanimity, he considers everyone like him only, knowing that the Lord is acting within all of us, and that is the samprajna samadhi. And the final result is essentially the moksha, but the moksha happens only after the vision, direct vision of the Lord. So these, all of these are called, in this state, the paroksha. The vision of the Lord can happen in two different ways. One is the called the paroksha jnana, the other is called the aparoksha jnana. So paroksha jnana is the indirect vision of the Lord based on what the person has read in various shastras, and learning about the attribute and understanding and contemplating on it. That knowledge of Lord's abilities, his attributes, his guna, his kindness, which is all of them are infinite, his infinite attributes. Some of these attributes the person learns about, and in the when that is through his jnana chakshu, he is able to feel the Lord, his presence, his grace on all of the life forms on in this whole world. The second stage is when the person has the aparoksha, in the direct perception of the Lord. And when the person gets the direct perception of the Lord, um, that time only he becomes eligible for moksha. So this asampragyat samadhi is a preliminary stage before which the jiva is able to get the moksha. So this is the teaching within Bhagavad Gita of what is the dhyana and what is the dhyana yoga. So with this, I will stop this video, and I wish all of you a very happy new year, and I'm hoping that some of you may read through a little bit more on the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 4 and 5, which specifically talks about sannyas yoga, sannyas, karma sannyas yoga, and the dhyan yoga, and derive some of your own interpretation and your understanding from it, and succeed in your meditation practices. Sri Krishna Marpan Vastu.